Hey guys, welcome back to The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. Today I'm going to talk about my breastfeeding journey. I've been asked a lot of questions about just really regarding me breastfeeding, so I figured I'd make a video just to kind of make it easy to answer some of these questions. A lot of people reach out to me for advice, and what I usually tell a lot of the moms is all of our bodies are different. I can't really give you advice on what you should do. I can give you some of the things that I've done for myself, and you can try them out to see if they work for you. But the reality of it is, we are all different. I was not able to successfully latch my son when he was first born after he took a bottle, and a lot of it is just a lack of education, not doing enough research. So that's kind of what I'm going to get at today. With my first child, I did have his first latch in the hospital, and he was able to latch great. We didn't really have any issues, but for whatever reason, I don't really remember why, the hospital gave him one of the little formula bottles, and after he got that nipple, he had nipple confusion, and he would no longer take me. So I did pump for him for not very long, probably about 2 to 3 months. It was just very painful. I couldn't get past the pain of just being engorged, and I just couldn't function. And I was also still very young, so I I just didn't really care that much, to be honest. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can pump. Um, but after that, he did move to formula, and I'm not gonna say that breastfed babies are any better than formula fed babies, because they aren't. As long as they're healthy, then that's all that matters. Um, there are some benefits to breastfeeding that formula fed babies don't really have, and a couple of the most common ones are their immune system is not as strong in formula fed babies as it is in breastfed babies, and that's just because a lot of the nutrients that we provide when we breastfeed helps protect our babies from illnesses, because our milk, our body produces antibodies in our milk that helps protect the babies. And the second thing is, a lot of formula fed babies have some digestive problems. They tend to get more constipated, or the opposite. It just kind of depends on how their body reacts. And breastfed babies, they don't have as many issues, but they do tend to have some digestive issues based on the mom's diet. And I did kind of come across that with Amora, my second child. Um, but I did decide to go full out breastfeeding with her for as long as I could. I wasn't sure how successful I would be, but I just, like I said, educated myself and took some extra precautions to try to prevent nipple confusion this time around. I don't think that my first hospital with my first child was very pro breastfeeding. They just didn't really care much. They wanted the baby fed, and that was about it. This hospital that I just delivered at with Amora was very pro breastfeeding. Like, day 2 in the hospital, I asked for a pacifier, and they didn't even want to give me a pacifier, but to prevent nipple confusion. They say that they usually wait about 2 weeks to introduce the pacifier, so I did just kind of tough it out and wait those 2 weeks. But my breastfeeding journey so far with Amora has been great. I did come across some hiccups in the road. I tend to be an overproducer with both of my pregnancies, or my births rather. I did produce a lot of milk, like a ton of milk, and that usually causes more engorgement and things of that nature. So this time around, I would nurse Amora, and then I would pump if I became engorged. However, it just made me even more engorged, because my breastfeeding is on supply and demand. So the more your baby drinks, the more your body is going to produce. And if you're pumping, your body is thinking that your baby is taking that much milk, so it's going to produce more. And that's what was happening to me. So I was constantly engorged, and I would go in the shower to try to relieve myself or put a heating pad over my breast. Um, but I contacted the lactation consultant in the hospital to try to see what I could do, because I was producing so much that Amora started choking every time she would eat. She was literally choking to, she was like gasping for air because my milk was coming out so fast. And one of the terms that I wasn't aware of back then, and even until after I started researching, was the term letdown. I had a very powerful letdown, and that's what was causing her to choke. So they told me to hold off on pumping to allow my milk to regulate itself. So I did do that. I probably didn't start pumping until she was about a month old again for the second time around to allow my milk to regulate. And that has worked. She doesn't choke as much. She does still choke because I do still produce a fair amount of milk. Um, but it's not nearly as bad as what it was. And I think it's important to know, like, every baby is not going to be the same as far as their latch is concerned. If you're having some latching issues, it could be a million different reasons. Like, your baby can have a lip tie, a tongue tie. Um, they could be like my baby and really just trying to regulate the way that the milk flows out, because she makes kind of like a clicking noise when she's nursing. We did go to the lactation consultant, and they said that, I mean, that's just the way that she eats. As long as your baby is gaining enough weight, has enough, they've produced enough wet or soiled diapers, then your baby is likely getting what they need as far as your milk is concerned. A lot of people get discouraged because the babies become fussy at the boob, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they aren't getting enough to eat. You just really need to pay attention to what your baby is showing you, because Amora was fussy at the boob for a long time, and I was concerned that I wasn't producing enough milk because I wasn't pumping it enough, and like I couldn't really produce. I probably had half an ounce every time I pumped. But your pumping production is not a true reflection of how much your baby is getting, because it comes out a different way. The baby is more efficient at getting milk out of the boob than the pump is. So don't get discouraged with that. And it's just really important not to listen to a bunch of people. I think that was one of the issues I had. I just kind of thought they knew better. Go to a professional, go to lactation consultants, allow them to tell you what's best. If your baby is not gaining weight, then yeah, your baby might not be getting what they need from the boob, or you might not have enough fat in your milk. There's just a million different reasons. I know a lot of breastfeeding moms tend to not have a cycle as long as they're nursing exclusively. And that's not true for everyone. I thought that was going to be true for me. And my cycle came 6 weeks postpartum, and I was exclusively breastfeeding. I wasn't even pumping at that point, and I still had a period. And another thing that I was unaware of is my milk production really decreased like the third day of my cycle. So she was fussy at the boob. She wasn't getting enough. She cluster fed a lot. And that's another big thing. Sorry, I'm kind of all over the place, but I'm thinking of ideas kind of as I go. Cluster feeding. Just because your baby's cluster feeding doesn't mean that they aren't getting enough. It can mean that they're going through a growth spurt. They are doing it for comfort. It just really depends. But when my milk did decrease, I started, well, someone mentioned taking fenugreek. So I took fenugreek, and we didn't respond well to it. It messed my stomach up. It messed Amora's stomach up. So I started reaching out to some more people, and they actually said that fenugreek lowered their supply. So I took one pill. This actually requires for you to take three pills a day, and I only took one, and it messed my stomach up. So I went ahead and just disregarded this. I mean, I don't need it. If anyone wants it, I'll be more than happy to mail it to you if you want to try it out. But it didn't work well for me. Our stomachs were through. However, what did work is I had these lactation cookies that I purchased. They are kind of expensive. It was about $20 for this whole box. It comes with 10 bags of cookies, and it probably has, it says 10 2-ounce bags. It probably has about 7 to 8 cookies in it. So it's a pretty fair amount, but they are expensive. However, these things work. I ate 2 bags of these, and my milk like really started coming, and it happened pretty fast. I ate 2 bags within 2 days. So she was able to get what she needed, but I mean, again, this is what worked for me. It might not work for you. And this is Munchkin Lactation Cookies, and I like the oatmeal chocolate chip ones. They're pretty good. They do have some other flavors. You can try them out for yourself. But that was like one of the issues that I came across. Now, a lot of breastfeeding moms aren't going to have that problem because they don't have a cycle. But it is shown that your cycles can make a drop in your supply. So that's something to be aware of. However, I haven't eaten any cookies or anything. This is just one of my pumping sessions. Amora is at daycare, so I usually try to pump when she eats, like when she's on schedule to eat. Amora eats 2.5 ounces every 2 hours. So I try to pump every 2 hours. I was a little overdue with this one. This is about 3.5, just because I was out today. But this is from both boobs, and I got 4 ounces and 4.5 ounces just in one pumping session. It usually takes me about 10 to 15 minutes to pump this. But Amora usually nurses for only about 5 to 7 minutes. Not very long at all. So just really try to be in touch with your body. If you are having some issues with production, I would say try other things before, like supplement and formula, because that tends to not help with your production because you're supplementing with something else. So try a lot of skin to skin. Oatmeal is a big one that you can try, and I think that's probably why these oatmeal chocolate chip cookies work pretty well. You can power pump. You can try to cluster feed your baby really all the time. Keep the baby on the boob as long as you need to, because it's going to help your production. Because again, it's supply and demand. Do what you can. Now, everybody is not going to be successful at breastfeeding. That's important to really just kind of be aware of, because so many moms get discouraged, and I was one of those moms. I didn't think I was going to be able to continue breastfeeding because my supply dropped so much, but I just really stayed consistent with our skin to skin, my Munchkin Lactation Cookies, and cluster feed. One of the things that Amora does have is reflux. That's a big thing. A lot of moms stop breastfeeding because they're tired of their baby spitting up, and I was gonna stop, but the doctor says that she's just a happy spitter. They suggested that I cut dairy out of my diet at first, and I did that for about 2.5 months. It did not work. She still continued to spit up. Ooh, excuse me. So just really talk to the pediatrician, the lactation consultants. Really exhaust all of your resources, because that's gonna be what's gonna cause you to be successful in your journey. I think I was initially gonna give up because I was losing so much weight, and I just wasn't aware that you have to increase your calorie intake when you're breastfeeding, because you are burning calories when you do that. So that's important for us petite women. To keep in mind that you might lose a little bit more weight than desired, but when you finish your journey, it'll likely come back if you continue to eat like you need to and work out. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say about my journey. Everyone is going to be different. Try not to get discouraged. Try to stay consistent with it. And yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions. I hope I answered a lot of the questions that some of the moms have been reaching out to me about. If not, feel free to drop them below or DM me, as you guys have been doing. and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. But until next time, I'll see you guys. Thank you.